Hello, everybody. It is Badger Wild, and we are back with another Space Engineers. Don't know what I call these tips videos. It's really not a tip that I'm working on here today. It's actually just something that I've noticed, and I'm kind of wanting the opinion of the Space Engineers community on. Some of y'all have probably messed with this more than I have, but let's pull out the old toolbar here. And number 7. So what I'm talking about today, I've got the F302 out here with its impressive double guns. This is eventually getting an upgrade at some point. And what we've got here is a small hydrogen tank with a couple of colored blocks around it. Now, why is this here? Well, turns out this week I got the flu and wasn't able to do a whole lot of major concentration on much of anything. I couldn't do any writing or anything like that. But what I could do was I could sit around and just fiddle with Space Engineers, and so I took the opportunity to start testing out, the hydrogen tanks. And I tested the large hydrogen tanks, which does about what you would expect it to do. It does damage. Then I got to messing around with the small hydrogen tank because I got to thinking, how explosive is the small hydrogen tank? Now, sitting here in yellow, we've got a conveyor block, or a reinforced conveyor block. Over here, we've got regular light armor blocks in blue, heavy armor blocks in green, and some blast doors in red. Now, what I found is probably not that interesting, but I think I may have discovered something that can build upon another YouTuber's theory, and that was Luca the Guide, who originally stated there was possibly, because of the explosive nature of hydrogen tanks now in the game, since I believe the Warfare 2 update, that now nacelles made a lot of sense on a ship, because, and nacelles similar to that of, for those of you who don't know what a nacelle is, think of the engines on the Paris class frigate from Halo, or the engine systems on a Star Trek ship, for instance, the Enterprise, all those long energy beam things, or long tubes or structures on the sides of the Enterprise that have a blue glowing energy in them with a little red tips. Those are called nacelles. Now, the interesting part about that is, with the nacelle, the idea of building a nacelle was, okay, you can put a big hydrogen tank over there, and then if it gets hit, well, it's going to blow up, and you're not going to lose all your hydrogen. You're going to lose half of your hydrogen, and you'll still have some of it. I don't know what the PCU of this is, but I came up with something rather interesting watching this. So we're going to head over here to the F302 real quick. I'm going to lock on here to that spot in the center. And I'm going to attempt to hit it. Okay, we've hit it. Now let's just give it a minute to reload. Okay, she's exploded now. Now, here's the thing that I noticed, and coming forward, you will probably notice this as well. We have done pretty much damage to everything that is directly contacting the hydrogen tank that just blew up. The blue blocks are completely gone. We have lost an entire green block. But going over here, this heavy armor block is not damaged in this particular section. As you can see in the components here on the right, they're all still intact. Functionally, this block is still good. It's just deformed. Now, heading over to our armored conveyor, our reinforced conveyor tube, it's not functioning anymore, but we still could just put a few components in it and make it work. This is where things get interesting. The blast doors are barely affected. Blast doors in Space Engineers have about, I would almost say, maybe the same amount of weight as a light armor block does. I don't know. I would have to test that out myself. But considering this right here, now ask yourself a very simple question. What do you think the hydrogen tank here is going to be at? Are we going to have any damage? The answer is no. This thing's at 100%, meaning that with a precision shot from the F302, where did it go? Where did my F302 go? Oh my gosh. Oh, there it is. So a precision shot from the F302 over here has hit a single one of these hydrogen tanks. And the hydrogen tank has detonated, damaging almost everything in sight. But has failed to damage this hydrogen tank on the other side. Now, here's the kicker. To equal the same amount of hydrogen in small tanks that you would have in a large tank, a large tank holds, I believe, 15 million, and the small tank holds 1 million liters of fuel. In other words, however many units of fuel, whatever the units are being used here, I'm not big on standard measurements or metric system, whatever you want to call it. But whatever the hydrogen tank holds, it's about 1 million units, and the large hydrogen tank is 10 or 15 million units. So you need 15 of these. So theoretically, you could build a 30 block long nacelle, daisy chaining, hydrogen tank, blast doors, and then beyond that, like hydrogen tank, blast doors, hydrogen tank, blast doors. And here's the even better part. Up here, this is undamaged as well. The small hydrogen tank only damages critically the blocks that are directly touching it. And this is probably a big deal. Like I said, I have no idea what this does PCU-wise to a ship. Somebody tell me if this is something that's been tried, if I'm going through, because I don't know much about whether or not this has been utilized too much. I've seen ships that have small hydrogen tanks. That's usually just to, refuel. But at 15 small hydrogen tanks, doesn't matter what engine you're using, you're pulling the same amount of hydrogen off as you would a large hydrogen tank. There is no depletion difference. The small engines will deplete faster if they have equal thrust to a large thruster, and a large thruster will deplete the hydrogen at a slower rate. So, for every large hydrogen tank you would want to put into a ship, you would need at least 30 blocks length to put all of these in. And the interesting part here is, if you do that and say you took a railgun round to your system, you would lose a single small hydrogen tank and you would be down 1/15 of your hydrogen supply in one tank. If you're running a single tank's worth of hydrogen off the small hydrogen tanks. It also means you could build a much flatter system for about 4 blocks long, or, well, if you were going to do it, I guess you would need 6 blocks wide by 1 by 6. You could build a really flat, very hard to hit hydrogen tank system that could be easily repaired, like simplistically repaired if it came down to it. You could repair both sections, add a new hydrogen tank in there, and just start rebuilding. And if you run 2 sets of conveyors, one on top, one on bottom, and then just had a block space between them, you're not going to lose this conveyor because, look here, it took a moderate amount of damage. There's just not enough explosive power in one hydrogen tank to daisy chain the rest of them if there's a block in between them. Now, the reason why I say blast doors would be best is because, as you can see with the rest of this, the deformation may cause damage to the other hydrogen tank. And this is something that's done with larger hydrogen tanks, putting 2 of these together. I'm currently building a frigate, and I'm considering putting these in as a nacelle just to see how good they are and test it against other pirate ships. Maybe run up against them with no shields to see what happens. But if y'all think this is a good idea, here's the potential behind this. If you can build something like this, and it's not a bogus idea like I'm thinking it is, these hydrogen tanks would not detonate enough to destroy the one next to it. So you wouldn't have to worry about daisy chaining an explosion on your nacelle. Your nacelle, if it took a hit, instead of losing an entire hydrogen tank, you would only lose a very, very fraction of your hydrogen supply. And your ship would be that much longer in the fight. And I mean, we're talking like lucky railgun shots or a surprise artillery barrage from somebody who has turned off their antenna and is playing sneaky games. with like a camouflage ship, or just using one that's black and all shiny so it's harder to spot out in space. But have that happen, and you would be able to take a hit and keep on going. This means you could build a much lighter ship, theoretically. I don't know what the weights of all this stuff is. I need to do some more testing to see what the weight is, what weight difference is, if there are any, between the heavy armor blocks and the new conveyor tube blocks. It doesn't appear that there is, because I have noticed when I look at heavy armor down here on the toolbar, it does have a weight thing telling me, hey, this weighs a bit. So I don't think that's a big deal. But considering the amount of H2 that you could save by doing this, I mean, just imagine one big long daisy chain nacelle. And it could be on the external side of your ship. Even if it takes a frickin' hit, the person who just fired a shot, even if they were firing steadily, would have to go through and just kill every hydrogen tank. That's a lot of bullets. It's a lot of ammo to rip through armor and do it repeatedly. I mean, we're talking repetitively tearing through armor, ripping into it, and just to blow out each individual hydrogen tank. And if you got an entire hydrogen tank supply, you're talking 30 blocks long. You could break that down into an even, let's say, somewhere around see, it's 15. We're talking 7. You could break it down to an even 8, and you would only need 16 blocks distance. That would include, or length, and you'd only need 16 blocks so that you could put blast doors and hydrogen tanks in there and then pipe them all together. And when a detonation happens and have them on either side, you have a full hydrogen tank's worth of hydrogen in those 2 nacelles. When the impact of that round, railgun, artillery shell, assault cannon, whatever, if they get that lucky shot on the nacelle and they're thinking, ha, we killed it, and suddenly it's like, nope, that sucker's still operating. It ain't dying. I mean, I think this could work. I'm planning on probably trying to do a little more testing, maybe take the Sentinel down there, rip out its 2 hydrogen tanks, and then maybe attaching 2 nacelles on either side. But if this makes a more durable ship, it could be a meta for new ships. Because if the large hydrogen tanks are much more of a liability to have, because I mean, a large hydrogen tank gets hit, that's 15 million units of hydrogen gone instantly. Whereas with this, you only lose 1 million, and you've still got 14 million more left. And the enemy has got to turn around and go another 2 blocks over, where they got done firing here. Well, now we got to go 2 blocks over and start wasting more ammo hitting this one, and then waste more ammo hitting that one, and then waste more ammo, and yada yada yada, etc., 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 as the king would say. But yeah, like I said, an interesting concept here with destroying hydrogen tanks that I'm thinking about incorporating. Tell me what you guys think about this, and if you think it's a worthy endeavor to do something like this, or if you think the PCU might be too much. I'm not too big on the PCU stuff. I've got a computer that can handle it. I just go. So it may not be good for people normally, but if you could do a daisy chain system like this and build it, would y'all do it? Have you done it? And if you have done it before and you're not using it, why don't you use it? Just an interesting concept that I just fiddled around with while I was sick, and that I was actually surprised by the results of the experiment. And so I'm just showing y'all what the results of the experiment is. Like I said, the damage to this heavy armor block, or this blast door, is just 96% still functional. I'm just wild by that. And then this here is just 100%. It's just mind-boggling to me that you could put a blast door between 2 hydrogen tanks and it not kill them both. And I think it's something that may need to be explored a little more in depth. Like I said, also up here, this thing up here, this H2O2 generator is unfazed, even though it was direct line blast with this reinforced conveyor tube. I don't know. Anyway, folks, if you enjoyed the video, please be sure to give me a like, comment, and subscribe if you're new to the channel. And as always, stay safe, stay frosty. I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye-bye for now.